Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson, a World Alternative Media here, and recently, while in Europe investigating ancient civilizations and cataclysm, I found myself in Rome. Being in Rome, I couldn't miss the opportunity to check out the Vatican's museum, known to have one of the greatest collections of ancient relics in the world. From Egyptian to Sumerian to Greek, and so on. I knew that the Vatican was known for in-your-face symbology. However, on arrival at the Vatican, I never would have thought I'd see such in-your-face references to ancient civilizations and ancient cataclysms. The Vatican holds many secrets. Their archives are world-renowned and untouchable for the most part, but their museum is vast. The crowded museum and Sistine Chapel sees thousands of visitors a day, and most of the visitors don't think twice about most of the exhibits they pass by, but the museum displays many secrets in plain sight that I found necessary to document to the best of my ability among ridiculously tight crowds. In this video, I'm going to break down my findings. Several of my findings don't seem to have been noticed by anyone else. But in my opinion, the Vatican went out of their way to tell a story that only a select few are privy to. Let's go back. This past year, I found myself in Mauritania, Africa, traveling through minefields, sleeping in horrifying hostels in shanty border towns, hitchhiking across the Sahara Desert to report on the Richat Structure, also known as the Eye of the Sahara. The site is considered by many to be the most likely site of the lost city and civilization of Atlantis, or as the Egyptians called it in the Edfu Building Texts, the homeland of the primeval ones. An island city of concentric rings that ruled like an empire, kind of like Rome ruled the Roman Empire with many outposts. Plato, by the word of his ancestor Solon, claimed that Egypt was an outpost of Atlantis, wiped out in a day and night of misfortune, sinking into the sea. Mauritania is the land of King Atlas below the Atlas Mountains next to the Sea of Atlas or Atlantic Ocean, and of course Atlantis means Island of Atlas. Atlantis may just be the Greek name for a lost ancient civilization which has become more and more understood to have indeed existed in a far-off epoch. Nearly every ancient civilization and religion in the world speaks of a great cataclysm, a great flood that washed over the earth. Whether it be Noah's Ark or the epics of Gilgamesh, whether it be a flood brought upon by Egyptian god Thoth, or Horus, or perhaps in Indian folklore, God Vishnu saving people from the Great Flood upon a boat. Even across the world in the Americas, the Aztecs, Incas, Mayans, and Olmecs spoke of a great flood and boats landing on mountains. Perhaps these gods were simply people who were part of a great civilization that was wiped out, going to live among the hunter-gatherers in order to survive after the cataclysm. Those hunter-gatherers, seeing the more advanced people as gods, much like we'd be received in a cataclysm if we pulled out an iPhone among hunter-gatherers deep in, Guatemala or among some Polynesian cults. As time went on, these simply advanced people were deified as godly creatures. We now have evidence of a great flood and a great cataclysm happening at the same epoch timeline as the Egyptian first time, as they called it, at the same time as Noah, Gilgamesh, the Olmec gods carried down to latter American ancients, at the same time as the Vishnu flood, at the same time as the legendary Atlantis, which fits in perfectly with other great flood so-called myths. With the Hiawatha crater in Greenland, we have evidence of an asteroid impact that wiped out 75% of all mammals in the Americas at this time. We now know of the Younger Dryas period, a time of major reset, of hell on Earth. Mix that with Robert Schoch's geological research at the Great Sphinx showing water erosion on its enclosure, putting it back to around the Egyptian Zep Tepe, or first time, more than 12,000 years ago. Mix that with the finding of Gobekli Tepe in Turkey near Mount Ararat, where Noah allegedly landed his ark in the flood. Gobekli Tepe is, of course, 7,000 years older than Stonehenge and changed everything academics thought they knew about the origins of ancient civilizations. Nearby are sites like Karahan Tepe, which we also recently visited near the Syrian border, that is even larger than Gobekli Tepe, yet hardly excavated. You can see our documentary on the site up on our YouTube in our Ancient Civilizations playlist. We can't forget the ancient city wall and tower of Jericho either. Anyways, new historical revelations seem to show that humanity may be cyclical, growing and getting wiped out over and over again. We've been to the Richat Structure here at WAM. We've been to Turkey, Greece, Spain, Germany, France, Morocco, Western Sahara, Mexico, and of course, Italy this year in search of the greatest mysteries. We certainly were met with amazing findings when we walked into the Vatican this past August. Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here at the Vatican, where there is an alarming amount of Egyptian and Sumerian antiquities, which I obviously, while I was here, had to check out. First thing you notice when approaching the Vatican is the great Egyptian obelisk in St. Peter's Square, the site of the saint's upside-down crucifixion. Surrounding the square is incredible architecture. We made our way to the box office and found our way into the crowded museum. Before entering the exhibits, we walked into a courtyard greeted by an interesting sight. The pinecone, also known as the Fontana Della Pigna, was formerly a Roman fountain. Water used to spout from the top. It once stood next to the temple of Isis. The pinecone was once associated with Israeli god Baal and the pagans, representing fertility or the passing down of life. We see it show up in Egyptian culture as well as Sumerian culture, often in the hand of a god also carrying a bag, as we will see later just on the other side of the wall from the pinecone fountain. You can see our video on the mystery of the ancient bag seen in cultures throughout the world in our Ancient Civilizations playlist on YouTube. With that said, many have associated the pinecone with the pineal gland, also known as the pinecone gland, which many say helps connect humans to a vast universal consciousness, almost like a receiver to a radio signal, which gives us emotions and conscious thought. Many note that hydrofluorosilicic acid, also known as industrial fluoride, calcifies pineal glands. Alcohol is also known to impede on a pineal gland's job. Interestingly, this pinecone stood outside the temple of Isis at one point. Isis was a sister and lover of Osiris. Many claim the two wear variations of pineal glands as crowns upon their heads, also taking from the tree of life. This is all part of the mystery we are so interested in cracking here at WAM, as these stories could be more important for the development of mankind than many of us may realize. Interesting that the Vatican so proudly displays the pinecone without proper explanation. Also interesting that below the pinecone we see two Egyptian guard lions. The Lions of Nectanebo originated from a sanctuary for Thoth in Egypt. The epithet derives from the mythological episodes in which Thoth brings peace between the two gods, Horus and Seth, who are fighting for the inheritance of Osiris on Earth. And here we see the creepy modern fractured earth across from the pinecone in the courtyard. And in we go into the Egyptian exhibit, complete with polished Egyptian stone pillars like we see at the Roman Pantheon. There are multiple sphinxes present. And here we see a stone with the famous Egyptian looped crosses coming out of a mysterious bottle by the gods. The crosses are represented in other civilizations by mysterious bags, which we will see in a moment. Here's an ancient stela representing heaven, earth, and the gods of Heliopolis. Now, this next piece had my brain racing to put puzzle pieces together. Here we see Thoth, whom the 7 sages of the Edfu Building Texts, the elders from Atlantis, essentially passed down wisdom to. Thoth was considered a god of wisdom, but simply obtained information from the previous civilization via the 7 sages of Edfu to the new rebirth of civilization along the Nile. He was passed the stories of the flood that wiped out the previous civilization. Considering the Edfu building texts tell the story of Atlantis very similarly vindicating Solon, who allegedly he got the info from elders in the now extinct ancient city of Sais in Egypt, this is even more interesting considering for no reason, despite it being the Egyptian exhibit and not the Greek exhibit, which comes much later in the museum, that Greek god Zeus sits in between 2 Thoth statues. Zeus was a great commander among the gods of Olympus in Greek mythology, the god of Atlantis, the one who brought upon the flood with the help of Poseidon. What on earth is the Vatican trying to say by, for no known reason, putting Zeus, the Atlantean god, between 2 statues of Thoth in the Egyptian exhibit? Most people walk by thinking nothing of the combination, but there is a clear message being represented with this display. I realize this sounds ridiculous, but I was freaking out at this point, and it was more and more clear by the moment that the Vatican knows something. There are coincidences, but considering the Freemasonic history of the Vatican and the secrets that the Vatican is said to hold regarding the history of mankind, there are no mistakes in the display of these artifacts. This was carefully planned. I passed down a hallway with Egyptian pharaoh statues and found interesting representations of Ra, the sun god, and or Osiris, complete with a snake upon the crown, which is strangely reminiscent of the snake god mythology in the Americas. And then, boom, I find myself surrounded by Sumerian tablets and statues. This is where my full nerd came out, because until that point, I'd only ever seen Egyptian relics in person. Here we see some of the most legendary Sumerian works of art. We see the Tree of Life. We see the representations of Enlil and Enki, good and evil, and most importantly, we see one of the most important relics of ancient Sumer. Many of these representations have been destroyed by US-backed rebels in the Middle East around Syria and Iraq. Seeing the bird-headed god with the pine cone in one hand and the bag in the other was almost an emotional experience, because I've been studying this tablet for years. Unfortunately, the Vatican puts a light within the glass case, making it extremely difficult to get a picture or video of it without glare. The importance of this tablet cannot be put into words, considering its relation to tablets found around the world representing the pine cone and, most notably, the mysterious bag. It's interesting to note that I recently visited the Museum of Şanlıurfa in southern Turkey near the Syrian border and close to Gobekli Tepe, where there are countless displays of Sumerian stone work. But the Vatican holds the most historic, while the museum in Şanlıurfa holds the largest and most impressive. At this point, I was surrounded by Greek, Roman, and Sumerian sculptures mixed together with Medusa's head above the archway, presenting a creepy symbolic gesture to those who understand symbology visiting the Vatican, which houses very little Christian symbology, by the way, within. That may or may not surprise you. I saw Greek versions of Sumerian winged gods, massive, beautiful bathtub-shaped relics which were truly remarkably well polished, as you can see. I couldn't resist touching one of them. There were statues of great beheadings, statues meant to bring fear to the beholder, goat heads that appear to represent satanic representations, statues below a massive sunbeam dome reminiscent of the Great Dome at the Roman Pantheon with a giant ball below the dome which seems to represent paganism, and yet more Egyptian statues guarding doorways. Among the great corridors of the Vatican Museum leading towards the Sistine Chapel, there were obvious representations of fertility, of paganism, of Sumerian artwork, of navigation with maps along the walls of the corridors. Every square inch of the halls were covered in paintings and symbology. It was impossible to document all of it. I'm sure I missed a lot, but what I did find brought me to realize that the truth is being given to us in plain sight, and we are essentially being mocked. Call me a conspiracy theorist if you wish, but in my opinion, the Vatican isn't trying to let us in on a secret. They're trying to mock us with the truth. Truth about the origins of human civilization, where we came from, where we're going, good and evil, histories they possess in their archives, most definitely that we are not privy to. It truly makes me sick thinking of all the historical revelations that exist just beyond the fortified walls of the Vatican, out of reach to all but the most elite individuals within the micronation of the extraordinarily powerful Vatican. This information is so important for them to keep under wraps that the Vatican was recently caught red-handed using charity funds to pay off their budget shortfalls when they could have just sold some of their priceless relics, which they own millions of, to a museum. I personally think there's something quite nefarious about this. There's no doubt evidence of vastly nefarious activities within the Vatican going back a millennia. Few Christians I know consider the Vatican a hub of Christianity. In fact, most Christians I know, even Catholics, feel the opposite. But we're not going to delve deep into that today. My point is, if anywhere there's evidence of history being hidden from our grasps, it's the Vatican. And I think it's about time people call that out and demand the truths we've been denied for so long. We will be releasing many videos from our explorations in Turkey, as well as many other amazing sites we visited in 2019. So don't miss our upcoming videos on sites like Gobekli Tepe, Derenkuyu, Haran, and other shocking revelations we've made throughout the world. Also, make sure to see our videos on the Greek Hellenicon Pyramid, our documentary Atlantis in the Desert, among countless other videos we're very proud of. Because this video talks about the Vatican, this video will be demonetized and likely shadow banned, as we've seen a drop in viewership at WAM of 80% since January. YouTube CEO Susan Wojcicki recently admitted to what we knew to be true all along, that they had cut viewership on so-called controversial videos by 70% while propping up mainstream media networks against us smaller creators. So we need your help. We need to raise pledges here at WAM before we go under. So check our Subscribestar, Patreon, GoFundMe, and purchase merchandise at our Teespring store, all linked below. You can find Gobekli Tepe and Atlantis shirts among many other options there as well. Also, find us on float.app, that's flote.app, the future of social media as YouTube wages war on video content creators. We post more there than anywhere else. You can find us there at Josh Sigurdson as well as at Wham. You can also find people like Brian Forrester there at Brian as well. Float is looking to replace Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Tumblr, Reddit, and Patreon all in one with encrypted messaging. No algorithm telling you what to see and what not to see. They are unrolling monetization on videos, and they have live streams where you can give super chats. They also come equipped with a crypto wallet. Good times in innovation, bad times for YouTube. So if you want to see these truths, make sure to follow us there, because we can be deleted from YouTube any day now, and you'll never get this kind of content again. only manipulated propaganda meant to keep people stupid. Anyways, we appreciate everyone joining us. Make sure to press like and share this video. Stay tuned for upcoming videos on ancient civilizations. We've got multiple documentaries and reports coming at you soon. Until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change. Like what you see here, Wham! Don't forget to check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon. We cannot do it without you guys. Every donation is extremely, extremely appreciated as we're getting incredibly shadow banned. We've lost 80% of our audience since January of 2019 and counting. They are ripping us apart here on YouTube, and the only thing we could do in the meantime as we prepare for the next big step is to ask for help from the viewers that support our free information that we try to post on a daily basis. You can also find us on Subscribestar, where just $1 a month, that's all it takes, $1 a month is all it takes to truly make a huge difference. If everyone gave $1 a month, it would change everything for independent media, and we could win this information war, and we can defeat the mainstream medias eventually. And of course, on Subscribestar, we post subscriber-only content that you'll only see on Subscribestar. So make sure to pledge there, become a patron. That makes a huge difference, guys. And also, don't forget to check out our Bitcoin address below in the comments and description, as well as on the screen for you to scan if you please. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on the alternatives. We will likely be deleted by YouTube in the next 2 years. It's already happening on a vast scale, so make sure to find us on float.app. That's flote.app. at Josh Sigurdson, as well as at Wham, W-A-M. Float.app is replacing every social media, and I mean, it's just incredible the opportunities it provides for not just creators, but for the average person who wants to get away from these nannies telling them what they can or cannot see. They plan to replace Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, Tumblr, Reddit, and Patreon. You could subscribe to us on Float and pledge with cryptocurrency. It's really innovative. We are also on BitChute at World Alternative Media, as well as so many others, Minds, PocketNet. You can find us at World Alternative Media on Instagram. There's many options. And finally, don't forget to join us at Anarchapulco 2020, the famous event, the best liberty event known to mankind, other than perhaps Anarcho Vegas 2020. There are 2 major events coming up that we are extremely excited about, and you can use promo code WHAM, that's W-A-M, and save 10% on your tickets to these legendary conferences. There's so many amazing people speaking there. You won't want to miss it. So make sure to support in any way you can, even if it's just sharing our videos, pressing like, pressing to be notified. Anything helps, folks. You are the change you wish to see. Thanks for watching, everyone. And until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.
I'm sure you have already changed people's minds in your young age because you're involved, and I like that.